A live look this morning at our brand new Proton Therapy Center, where we are just a few moments away from making it official before we take that next giant leap into bringing the very best patient care here to our patients and beyond. The Morning Medical Update starts right now. Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, April 21st, and we are live here inside the Proton Therapy Center at the University of Kansas Health System, where today it is a very exciting day because we can officially start to schedule patients to receive their care here for proton therapy. For some of you, this might be a first look inside the Proton Therapy Center. For others of you, you've kind of been along the journey with us from the last couple of years when we broke ground on this magnificent building. And here we are today. So here live inside, we're going to be standing right here in this hallway. Down the hallway is where you'll find that very precise, pinpointed treatment that patients will receive. And we'll stand right here because the way this building has been built and because of that technology, it might interfere with our signal, and we do not want to lose you today. So we're going to stand here in what I'm kind of calling this like atrium area, this beautiful like lobby where people walk in and you see all these LED lights, and you find as you walk through here that they've just taken just those little special touches that make you feel like you're somewhere special, because you are. It's a clinical area, but it's really beautiful and very welcoming, and that's really what we wanted to create here for our patients. So you're going to meet some really important people here this morning, and two of those people is a mom and a son who had to travel far away so that he could receive his proton beam therapy. So we're going to talk with them. Alexis Del Cid is joining us. She is in the studio this morning, and she's going to talk with Karen and her son Roma about what their experience was like and how great this is going to be for people who have gone through the same experience that they went through. Joining me here inside the Proton Therapy Center is Dr. Ron Chen. He is the Chair of Radiation Oncology and Clinical Services at the University of Kansas Health System. And we're also joined by Dr. Ronnie Rotondo. He is the Medical Director of Proton Therapy here at the University of Kansas Health System. And we are also going to be joined and talk with Nurse Navigator Sarah Solomon. So glad to have all three of you with us this morning. These are three people who are so important, but they will admit they are just part of the big picture of people, this big integral group of people who are bringing this type of care and ready to receive patients here at the Proton Therapy Center. So we're going to talk with them and show you some beautiful pictures behind the scenes. But first, let's get a check of our medical headlines. I'm going to send it now over to Alexis Del Cid, who is joining us in studio.
Thank you, Jess. That is such a cool area. Having been there before it was complete, just a beautiful place to be this morning. In headlines this morning, both Kansas and Missouri now considering the COVID-19 situation an endemic versus a pandemic. Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infectious Disease and Prevention, joins us now to talk about this. So, Dr. Hawkinson, what's the difference between endemic and pandemic?
You know, I think a lot of it just depends on, it's multifaceted. So it's what the government will do. It's about finances. It's about declaring a certain state, i.e. a state of emergency or pandemic. It is about what people can go out and do in their social lives, in their personal lives, being out rather than being on restriction, mass. It has to deal with medical capacity. There are so many facets to this, and I think it comes down to learning and understanding that we are now dealing with this in our country, because our country is certainly our experience is different than what is going on in other places right now as well. It comes down with dealing that on an individual and a community level, and it's trying to get back to those times before the pandemic.
So endemic is less serious than pandemic?
No, it just means that now we know and accept that this virus is circulating in our population. And so what do we do with that? With keeping the economy going, with keeping kids in school, doing those things that are so important to mental health and physical health and the economy and our workers and everybody like that. So it's maybe just a shift. It's basically just more of a word to understand that this virus is circulating in our community. We know it's out there. We know the things to do to help prevent our individual illness. So, avoid going to those large crowds if you don't feel comfortable or if you are at risk. importantly, get vaccinated, stay up to date with vaccination. It's just more of a word saying that this is in our community. We are living with this now. How do we go about living with this? How do we go about keeping, again, our schools open, our economy open, our restaurants, our places of business going?
Okay.
How do we keep going back to the things that we want to do, like going to Allen Fieldhouse and watching basketball, or going to concerts at T-Mobile Center? It's all of those things. How do we live with it? But I think we have to be thoughtful in the way, as an individual or a family, especially if you have are around high-risk people. What are the thoughtful ways we can go about doing those things? And again, the best things are to understand those principles of infection prevention and, of course, vaccination.
That's a good way to put it. So, and things might change then if you go down to Arkansas, where it's still considered a pandemic.
Well, I think it's just, again, I think it's just words being used by the leadership, by the legislature, to maybe shift, again, in some instances from funding, different funding, or different focuses of attention to other things. You know, we know also during the pandemic, a lot of things lost focus because everybody was so focused on the pandemic, either for testing, treatment, finances, resources, and this may be just one more thing that we can use to direct some of those funding and finances and resources to other things now, and kind of, again, get back to a life that is more pre-pandemic than it has been the last 2.5 years. But understanding also, again, I think the most important thing is to understand the virus is still out there. Yes, cases are going down, hospitalizations are going down, deaths are going down, but the virus is still circulating. So you as an individual, you as a family, you as a community have to understand that and be thoughtful about those things that you're doing. And the best way, again, to protect yourself from having to come back into the hospital, and that's really what we want. We don't want you and your loved ones having to come to the hospital because you're sick, having to go to the ICU because you're sick, and understanding that the best, safest way to help prevent that is through vaccination. And it's continuing to endorse those messages so that you can be out there doing those things safely.
I know we have some updated COVID numbers. You want to run those down for us?
Yeah. So again, our numbers have been, in the lower teens for this past week. Right now, we have 12 active infections, 1 in the ICU, 0 on the ventilator, 46 in that recovery period as well. So, active cases continue to go down. Again, we know there is some level of circulation of the virus out there in the community, but overall, we are happy to see less and less infections here in the hospital.
Oh, amen to that, right? We love your questions. We love all questions and comments from our viewers, so send them to us on YouTube, Facebook, and the Medical News Network. You can see the links right there on your screen. Do we have any reporters on the line today with questions? All right, looks like we don't have reporters today, so let's head on out to host Jessica Lovell for this historic event at an historic place that will change and save lives starting today. Good morning, Jess.
Hi, Alexis. Good morning. So just in just about a month, the most technologically advanced form of radiation treatment for cancer will be used to treat our first patients here at the University of Kansas Health System. So you know the name. We have been talking about this for quite a while now. We were talking about proton therapy, and this center is the first of its kind in the state of Kansas, and also the surrounding states of Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, and Arkansas. And we are marking this milestone by ceremoniously pulling the curtain off of the Proton Center sign. So we want to take you out live. And this is where a big group of people are, there they are. They're gathered outside the Proton Therapy Center.
Cool.
And we are just moments away from unveiling the sign that will sit outside on our proton therapy building that faces Rainbow Boulevard. So we're going to catch up with those here in just a moment. So we want to talk a little bit about what this new center means. It means that adults and even children who need this cancer treatment will be able to stay close to home. They won't have to travel miles and miles away and be away from their family and their loved ones and their support system. And that's really what this next story is all about. Alexis, I'm going to send it back into you to the studio and let you introduce our first guest.
This is such a special morning for the two guests you're about to meet. Proton therapy essentially delivers a pencil-thin beam of hope to patients. This beam is made up of protons that are expertly focused to deliver radiation directly to the tumor, killing cancer cells, but sparing the healthy tissue. And this is especially beneficial for our tiniest of patients, pediatric patients like Roma Volkov. Roma and his mom, Karen, join us live this morning. Good morning, Roma. How are you doing today? When we first met you, I know you said you were a huge Royals fan. I assume that's still accurate?
Yes, and I'm also cheering for the Jayhawks.
Oh, nice. That's a twofer, of course. So thank you for that. You also said, I want to ask you this, you were a World War II history buff and that you love tractors and tanks. Is that still true?
Yes.
Nodding his head, yes. I want to talk to Mom Karen. Karen, can you tell us about your son's cancer journey? How old was he when he was diagnosed?
Roma was diagnosed when he was 3 years old. He was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma of the abdomen. His cancer had spread all over his body and had gotten into his bones. It was obviously a devastating diagnosis for a mother. It was about the worst thing you could ever hear as a mother. And he went through 5 modalities of treatment. And so he went through chemotherapy, had an operation, had a stem cell transplant, and proton beam radiation was his fourth modality, followed up by immunotherapy as well.
Oh my goodness. Can't even imagine the stress of that. When you learned that the proton therapy that doctors recommended was hundreds of miles away from home, where did you have to go for that?
Well, cancer obviously is the worst thing you could ever hear. And then hearing you're going to have to travel and be away from your family, your support system, and your caregivers who were the University of Kansas, that's very difficult. You have to change where you're living. We had to change who was monitoring Roma at that time. Not to mention just the expense of it all. We went to MD Anderson in Houston. So we started at the University of Kansas, and they actually suggested that we go to MD Anderson because they weren't able to offer that at the time. This is what's so wonderful is now they will be able to offer that.
So you had to take your whole family, and of course you want to be with your boy, go all the way to MD Anderson. How was that emotionally for Roma, having to go through the treatment and then do it in a strange place that wasn't his hometown, and you're not near your network of support, you're away from town? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, actually it was, we didn't take our whole family. It was just Roma and I that went down. Cancer is a full-time job, so I wasn't able to care for my other son. I'm not just Roma's mom. My other son is Alex, and so he stayed with my parents, and we were down there for about 3 weeks in Houston. We were lucky enough to stay at the Ronald McDonald House, so we did have a place to stay, but obviously we were completely separated for that period of treatment. And in a completely, I'd never been to Houston before, so it was, not work. So you're dealing with so much already, and then you're not home, and you're not with your family, and your others, our other family. My other son was also
your other child.
It was very, very difficult. On top of cancer, on top of just having the weight of that diagnosis. So
everything. Well, that's what makes this event and this space so special now, where Jess is live, and we want to check back in with Jess. And thank you to Roma and Karen for talking with us. Jess, you're now at a place that will change the story for families who, God forbid, have to go through what Karen went through with her little boy Roma.
It really is. It's one of the first stories I did when I started here at the health system. So to see Karen and Roma looking great and happy, it's really a joy. Dr. Rotondo actually treated Roma. How is it like to see him?
So he was treating in Houston,
but that's where you sent him.
Right. And so it's been incredible to see how he's doing and how well he's done since treatment.
Why is he such a good candidate?
So he had a large tumor in the abdomen, so In his case, with proton therapy, we were able to significantly spare the surrounding normal healthy tissues and organs, which in turn may significantly decrease the long-term effects of radiation. So kids are particularly sensitive to the long-term effects of radiation, and so with proton therapy, we've really been able to minimize those risks.
All right, we're going to get back inside with the three of our experts here, but we're going to actually go outside now where they are about to unveil the sign. And I'm going to send it on over to you guys and let you do a countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In all its glory. Dr. Chen, just what is it like? I know a lot of people watching are thinking it's a sign on the side of a building, but to know what's going to be happening inside that building, what does it mean to you to see that finally revealed?
I think it really symbolizes the beginning of a lot of hope for patients in this region. Being able to offer proton therapy for the first time for patients in Kansas City, this symbolizes hope and the beginning. We'll be able to schedule patients very soon and treat patients very soon in this area.
Dr. Rotondo, same question. What's it like to see that sign unveiled?
You know, same thing. You know, incredible pride for the department and the health system and our community to bring this technology here. And again, a sign of hope that families like Roma's family won't have to travel long distances anymore to get this cutting-edge treatment.
Dr. Chen, for those who are just joining us on our proton therapy journey, just quickly tell people exactly what proton therapy is.
Proton therapy is a form of advanced radiation therapy. Radiation therapy is used to cure many, many types of cancer: prostate cancer, breast cancer, pediatric cancers. And proton therapy is unique because it has a beam that can stop at the tumor and not go beyond it, and therefore it's able to reduce the side effects and the damage that radiation can cause to surrounding tissue. And that's why it's so important for us to have this tool.
You know, doctors, COVID didn't stop us from building out and making this dream a reality. I was in here yesterday, Dr. Chen, and it just reminded me of all those times, and I wanted to show some video of you and I walking through the Proton Center as it was starting to come to life. We had I was going through yesterday going, oh, that's where Dr. Chen and I were walking down that hallway. You wouldn't have even recognized it. There we are, and we're standing in that hallway right now and turning the corner to go in where patients will be treated. It looks nothing like that. But to be able to see this kind of from the beginning to the end, and to know that we did all this during COVID, any setbacks? No setbacks?
Well, I think COVID did throw a twist to our plans, but I think and threw a twist because of the shutdowns all over the country, shutdowns in our hospital, and also had a financial impact on our hospital but what it really made us do is made us even commit further to continuing this project, continuing to build this project on the timeline, no delay, so that we can bring this as fast as possible to patients. It really shows the dedication of our health system to serving cancer patients in this area.
So, Dr. Rotondo, let's talk about the timeline. We're finally here. What is the date? Make it official when we will welcome in our very first patient.
So we will begin treatments the week of May 23rd. So the week of May 23rd is when we will start treating patients with proton therapy.
What will that be like for you? To know that we had brought this to Kansas City, and this woman is finally here to be able to make sure that we're giving our people that live here, but then being able to welcome people from all over the country.
Right. It's very exciting. You know, for the last few years, as we've been planning this, we've been having to send a lot of patients away, many miles away, and some of those patients were not, and families were not able to relocate to seek that treatment, which really would have been the best option. And that's a very difficult situation. And so now to be able to really offer this to the patients and families in the area is very exciting and gratifying.
Dr. Chen, this is the 39th Proton Center in the country. Why is it so rare?
Well, it's really rare primarily because of how much it costs to build a proton facility. It tens of millions of dollars just to build one machine. That's why it's so rare, but I think it's really important for us to have this resource for the cancer patients in this area. And I think our health system is dedicated to spend this capital so we can build this facility so we can take care of patients here and they don't have to leave to go elsewhere for their treatment.
Let's talk about who we're going to be serving. Your specialty focusing on prostate, bladder, testicular cancer, but you've also completed several trials. How will this proton therapy help you do what you do?
I think the most important, so as a physician, the most important thing that this facility helps me do is that it completes my toolbox. When I see a patient, I need to match the right treatment to the right patient's diagnosis, the type of cancer, the stage of cancer. Proton therapy may or may not be the best option for every patient, but as a physician, I must be able to have every tool to offer the patient. So just for example, in our cancer program, we will have the only proton therapy program in this area. We have brachytherapy for prostate cancer that's not offered by other places, SBRT, multiple different tools that we have. And from a cancer patient's perspective, you want to go to a physician and a facility that has all the tools available to offer to match the right treatment for you. And so proton therapy completes my toolbox, which is really important for me as a physician.
So Sarah, I'm coming after you next, but I just want to ask Dr. Rotondo, we see the three of you standing here this morning, but tell me about the other specialists and why it's so important that everybody is working together comprehensively.
So, right. So really it takes a large team of people to be able to deliver safe and effective proton therapy. And so, of course, there are the clinicians, and we've been able to attract incredible talent around the country with some proton experience, but also medical physicists and dosimetrists, key players and radiation therapists that actually deliver the treatment. And so we have an incredibly large and experienced team ready to start delivering proton therapy.
Sarah, you are a nurse navigator. You are going to be walking our patients down this journey. You're going to be a friend, and you're going to help them literally navigate this process from beginning to end. Tell everyone exactly what a nurse navigator does and what patients can expect.
Great. So once a referral is placed to KU for their cancer care, they'll be matched with a disease-specific nurse navigator that really will guide them through their cancer care in every facet for comprehensive care. So they will, when it comes to proton, they'll get them set up with a radiation oncologist that will discuss how proton plays a role in their therapy and what that means to them.
So the unveiling of the sign today signifies that we are now officially taking patients. So I want to put a QR code and a link on your screen for those who want to reach out and find out if proton therapy is right for them. Sarah, walk us through the process. When somebody picks up the phone and calls us, what will that be like for them?
So when you pick up the phone, you'll get a person, you'll hear a voice, and they will collect some information and will help get patients and physicians through the loops of authorization and set up with the right providers for their specific type of cancer.
So will they need referrals, doctors? How does that work? A referral outside of a health system, how will that work?
So we expect a lot of referrals from other institutions and providers, but also direct patient inquiries. So certainly if you have a diagnosis of cancer and would like to know if proton therapy is a good option for you, then you can certainly reach out directly.
So a patient could just pick up the phone and call and ask.
Definitely.
And find out more information. So Dr. Rotondo, we frequently talk about the significance of being an NCI designated cancer center. How instrumental was that for bringing proton therapy here to this Kansas City area?
Well, I would say that, to meet the designation of an NCI Cancer Center, you really have to meet an extensive list of criteria and benchmarks that really demonstrate your commitment and leadership in the area of cancer research and delivery of state-of-the-art cutting-edge treatment. And so the institution really has poured a lot of resources into that. And proton therapy is just another example of the University of Kansas Health System and its dedication and commitment to really investing in cancer care and bringing the latest cutting-edge treatments to the area.
Dr. Chen, let's just start to wrap up by talking about overall the benefit of the patient, what makes it different, why is it unique to come here to the health system and receive your proton therapy treatment?
Well, I think part of it is that we have the best technology. As I said before, we offer many types of treatments that are not available elsewhere in the region. Proton therapy, for example, intraoperative radiation for breast cancer that we've talked about before, brachytherapy for prostate cancer. It's important to come to the health system because we offer all the treatment options for all types of patients. But the other piece is that it's not just the equipment, but also the people. We have recruited a world-class group of physicians, staff, nurses, therapists, physicists here at the KU and having the right expertise to take care of patients in a world-class level is another reason why people should come here.
All right, Alexis, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio. I'm sure our community has questions, and we've got our experts standing by to take them.
We're getting some excellent questions, Jess, from our viewers, and a lot of them are about COVID. In fact, we got a common one about the booster, the second booster. Yeah. I want to bring in Dr. Hawkinson for this one, because you're allowed to sign up to get that second booster if you're 50. People want to know, what does this second booster do, and are we supposed to mix and match or go with the same one that you got for the first two?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had an mRNA vaccine, either Pfizer or Moderna, you need to stick with the mRNA vaccine. Certainly if you have had Pfizer before and all that the pharmacy has is Moderna, it's okay to mix and match that way. And we heard Dr. Stites talk about yesterday as well. If you had the Johnson & Johnson or the Janssen vaccine and you've had the booster, you know, your next dose really should be, it is recommended to have an mRNA vaccine. So that is important. You can mix and match that way as well, and I think that is important to understand. You know, we know that the protections from the mRNA vaccines are very good. We know that after you get that dose, your antibody levels do rise and do climb. And as expected, unfortunately, from the time out from that vaccine dose, your antibody levels do decrease as well. But you are still giving that boost to your immune system. You are also boosting those T cells. And again, those T cells play that great role of protecting against hospitalization and severe disease. So that's important to understand. What the data has shown and what we've been told is that those people that are further out from their dose of vaccine, you know, although still have a very good risk reduction of hospitalization, if they get that booster dose, they can increase that risk reduction even more. And so that's important. Really what we want to try and do is try to keep you out of the hospital, try to keep you from going to the ICU. And these booster doses have shown to help provide that protection, at least in the short term.
Lynn Painter has a question, and this is goes out to Jess in the field with our experts out there. Lynn would like to know, will a patient's insurance or Medicare cover proton therapy?
Yes, so there are, so many insurances do cover proton therapy for select diagnoses, but that doesn't mean necessarily that if their insurance doesn't explicitly cover it, that it might not, it still might be a possibility if really that the proton therapy is really the best treatment for them. So we certainly would evaluate their insurance plan, and there are mechanisms to be able to try to obtain
So don't let your insurance plan be a hang-up for you
right.
getting
I think
this
that the
treatment.
priority is to seek the best treatment
Absolutely.
for you, and we certainly will fight for that.
If I can add to that, I think you know, if a patient is wondering, or if their physician is wondering whether proton therapy is an option, I would suggest that they just click on that QR code, just let us figure that out. And if we see the patient and we decide that proton therapy is the best option for that patient, we will make sure that the insurance company will cover the right treatment for that patient.
Well, that's a great resource,
Alexis?
that QR code. Kay Schoenberg has a question for Dr. Hawkinson. Could you explain again how testing for antibodies to see if you're protected from COVID-19 is not that helpful, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. In fact, I think there was a new update to the NIH treatment guidelines, which also looks at diagnosis or diagnostics. And it recently continued to confirm that using antibody tests to determine immunity is not something that should be done. And this is for a variety of reasons. First of all, there are a lot of companies that have antibody tests. So basically what you are looking for in that test is they are testing your blood to look to antibodies, which your body creates after exposure to the spike protein through vaccination or infection. And they're looking at those antibodies and trying to detect those antibodies. But with so many different companies, you don't know if that antibody, even if it's to spike protein, but there are also antibody tests to N protein, which is just another protein on the virus. We don't know if those antibodies are specifically neutralizing or protective antibodies. So that is one of the reasons why just using an antibody test to look for immunity, either after infection or vaccination, is not recommended. The other issue here, as we talked about, is that, you know, we know that antibody levels wane, so they decrease. That is a natural function of our immune system after any infection or after any vaccination. It doesn't mean that you don't have the antibodies, but they just not be readily detectable. So that's important to note as well, but you still have protection. And the other thing is immunity is not just antibodies, but immunity is that T cell response. And those T cell responses are so important in helping protect against hospitalization and progression of disease. That is probably a better look at immunity, but there are no good T cell tests or T cell immunity tests to look at. So basically, antibody tests really only tell you if you've had exposure to the virus or the vaccine, but they should not be used to inform you of immunity against the infection.
I have a question from Isaac Presley, and it might be interesting to hear Karen or even Roma answer this. If Roma remembers, I'm going to paraphrase Isaac's question. Isaac wants to know what proton therapy feels like, wants to know if it burns at all. Roma, I know you were so little when it happened. Karen, do you have any memories of what Roma told you, or do you remember, Roma, what it felt like?
Well, it was like you started out laying on a bed, and then they would put you to sleep, and you would get this like deep feeling, and then you would just go to sleep. And then it doesn't hurt or anything. It's you can't feel it at all.
And I have to say, as like Roma went through again 5 modalities, and proton beam was the fourth. And another mother who had gone through the same thing with her son told me of all those 5 modalities, proton beam radiation was going to be a vacation from cancer treatments. And I thought that was, it really was. There was absolutely no side effects. Roma stayed in good health. His numbers stayed up. He was able to eat through the whole thing. It was literally, and we knew we were going back into some much more intense treatments, but proton beam was really just the easiest treatment of all those 5 modalities. And I highly recommend it for anyone who might be sitting on the fence about what to do.
Well, Roma, you're a great ambassador for this treatment, and I can tell you're a smart boy and you're a brave little boy. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with all of us. And thank you, Karen, for letting your little boy come on and share his journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wish I could give you guys a hug. I want to send it back out to Jess for the final thoughts out on this historic day. Jess?
Alexis, thank you so much. Before I get your final thoughts, I just want to quickly start with you, Sarah. What are you most looking forward to when you just welcome that first patient in here in about a month?
I think for them to get to meet this team that we worked so hard to build and to have amazing care and stay in Kansas City. I'm very excited for that.
Dr. Rotondo, I loved what Karen said, a vacation from that typical cancer treatment. I mean, that's what people can expect when they come here. Just kind of your final thoughts and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think that's the promise and the potential for proton therapy is a treatment that's highly effective against the tumor, but easier on the patient and a better quality of life during and after treatment. I'm just incredibly excited to be able to finally offer this treatment right here at home, and to be able to have those families stay closer to home with their support networks, and it's just an exciting moment.
Yeah, it really is a big moment. I'm honored to be standing with you throughout the last 2 years of this journey and helping to share this story. Dr. Chen, your final thoughts for us today.
Well, we're in March, so I want to just make a sports analogy. So, we have a great baseball team that won the World Series a few years ago. We have a championship football team. We have a basketball team that's going to win the championship next Monday.
Yep.
And what that takes is the right facility and the right people. The Proton Therapy Center that we're unveiling today shows that we have the latest technology and the right facility, but we also have recruited a bunch of first-round draft picks here to KU to take care of our patients. So this is really our NCI designated cancer center. We want to make this the right place for cancer patients in this area.
Dr. Chen, we are all in sports mode right now, so I think you tied that all up just perfectly. And if I can
show my Jayhawk tie
yes,
here.
You got it. You are representing. We appreciate that. Can I just say what I'm most excited about is, and again, a lot of people had never heard of proton therapy. I was one of those people 3 years ago when I started sharing these stories with folks as we were watching the ground break and watching this beautiful facility come to life. And so I'm just really thrilled to be able to tell some stories and to meet some of these patients and to be able to hear their successes on the other end of their cancer journey and hopefully bring it to an end. So thank you for letting me kind of tag along down the road with you. It's been really fun. I'm going to send it back to Dr. Hawkinson and Alexis and get his final thoughts.
We're going to get Dr. Hawkinson's final thoughts in just a moment, but we all want to hear one more time from Roma and Karen. Roma, there are little boys and girls right now who might be scared. They might have be just a few years behind what you went through. You've come out of it. You're doing great. You're back to rooting for the Jayhawks and the Royals. What would you want to say to other kids who haven't gotten proton therapy yet but are about to?
I would just like to say that I think that they can get through it. And I'd like to don't be scared.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. Karen, what are you thinking right now with your little boy right next to you doing so well?
Yeah, well, I think Roma is just testimony to how important this treatment is. Not only just that it's even available, and that it's going to be available in our area is what's. I mean, we were excited that it was available at all because it was so revolutionary for radiation. But now, you know, families, we were lucky we were able to get it, but boy, now everybody's going to be able to get it in our area. So it's just, it's wonderful. It's very exciting. It's wonderful for the community, for the Kansas City community.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah. Thanks, Roma. Dr. Hawkinson, what's on your mind today?
You know, this is just one more point of hope, one more treatment that we can offer, that the health system can offer to help improve patients' lives and their families' lives, and I think it's a great thing. I'd also like to say, you know, being April 1st, it might have been a better day to declare the pandemic over. And April Fools. Nice? Just understand that the pandemic, you know, all of the communities, all of the countries, their experiences are different from one another. Our experience here in the United States is much different. Obviously, we've talked about moving to that term of endemic. What that means to you and what you have to understand is that the virus is still out there circulating. And that we saw from the FDA approving a fourth dose or a booster dose for those that are non-immunocompromised. But there's been a lot of gray around that. So it does boil down to your individual decisions, your individual judgment of risk. Individual for you, individual for your family. Understand that, and understand that the safest way to continue to get through this is through vaccination. We want to reduce your chance of hospitalization, severe disease, and death. We know that these boosters can do that. This additional dose does that, especially for those in those older age groups. So continue to be up to date. If you have questions, please talk with your medical providers about that, and just keep yourself safe. Understand the risks of doing any of these activities that you're going to be doing, because we want to keep you safe and keep you out of the hospital. And last thing, of course, is rock chalk, and good luck to the basketball team this weekend.
On that note, let's send it back out to Jess.
That's where I was going next, Dr. Hawkinson. Yes, how about we head out to Lawrence, shall we? We have a live look at Lawrence, Kansas this morning, thanks to KSNT television. We appreciate them letting us kind of take a little sneak peek. Look at the campus sleeping quietly. I imagine all these like Jayhawk fans resting peacefully before we are just a day away from that Villanova game that will start tomorrow. I think at 5:10, that is tip-off time. So yes, I echo that. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, and good luck to them. Hopefully we'll be celebrating on Monday. Okay, but we are going to wrap up with this. This is what we're here for today. We have unveiled the sign for the Proton Therapy Center here at the University of Kansas Health System. The center will officially start taking patients on May 23rd. We are thrilled to welcome all of you. We will start taking appointments as of today. So everyone, please have a great weekend. Go Jayhawks. Have a great, safe weekend. We'll see you back here Monday at 8.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now everywhere podcasts are available.